On the 21st of September, Sri Lankans will be heading to polls to elect their new president. Now, who will it be? Well, it's up to the people to exercise their franchise and elect a new president. However, before that, the nominations for this presidential election need to be accepted. Now, according to the country's election commission, a total of 40 presidential hopefuls had placed their securities to run for the highest office in the country. Now, today is what we call in Sri Lanka nomination day. So today, all these presidential candidates and presidential hopefuls will be visiting the the election commission in Rajagiriya to submit their nomination papers to ensure that they are eligible to run for the highest office in the country. Now, the process of accepting nominations will commence at 9 a.m. today at the election commission. Now, candidates have time until 11 a.m. to hand in the nomination papers. Now, Election Commission General Saman Shri Ratnayaka announced that objections for these nominations can be raised between 9 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. Now, this year, 40 candidates have deposited the required security and are eligible to submit their nominations. Now, in preparation for today's nomination process, the Election Commission held a special discussion yesterday with the candidates and their respective representatives. Now, the meeting was organized in order to provide clarity to these candidates and their representatives on how the electoral process will be working or how it will take place, and also the nomination process. Now, the heads of various government organizations also involved in the election process were also present for this meeting. Now, starting this morning, even by 6 o'clock in the morning, the entire area surrounding the election commission was filled with police personnel and barriers set up for the special security plan that will be in place. Now, according to Sri Lanka Police, a special traffic and security program will be in place around the election commission during the process of accepting nominations for the 2024 presidential election. Now, a bid to ensure peace and security, Sri Lanka Police said that they will be deploying more than 1,000, that's right, more than 1,000 police personnel, including personnel from the Police Special Task Force, across key areas around the election commission in Rajagiriya. Now, this comprehensive program to ensure the peace and the security will also involve the deployment of roadblocks and mobile patrols. Now, acting police spokesperson DIG Ruwan Gunasekara in a media statement said, in addition to the 1,000 strong police force, another 300 police personnel will be deployed for traffic operations and to ensure the smooth flow of vehicles. Now, this special traffic plan will come into effect exactly at 8 a.m. in the morning and will go on until 2 p.m. Now, this program is aimed to minimize congestion in the area. Now, what are the roads that will be closed or restricted for vehicle movement during this period? Now, the exit lane on Sri Jayawardhanapura Road from Ayurveda Junction to Rajagiriya Junction will be completely restricted. Motorists are urged to avoid using Sri Jayawardhanapura Road from Polduwa Junction to DS Senanayaka Junction unless it is absolutely necessary. Further, motorists are requested to avoid Kota Road, Ayurveda Junction and the Old Kote Road from Rajagiriya Junction to Borella Junction during this period unless it is absolutely necessary. Now, presidential candidates who are using these areas who may be caught in the traffic congestion can seek assistance from Sri Lanka Police by calling the number 0718 591 741 or 0112 433 33 and 3. Now, nominations will be accepted today from 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. and time has also been allocated for anyone who wishes to raise objections with regard to these nominations to make those cases heard with the Election Commission. Now, following this period, independent candidates will be assigned their symbols, and thereafter a meeting will also take place with the candidates on the electoral process. Now, speaking of the electoral process, the Election Commission said that a total of 408 complaints have been filed in connection with the 2024 presidential election. Now, these complaints have been recorded since the announcement of the election date until last afternoon. Now, among these complaints, one complaint relates to an act of violence, while the others relate to the violation of election laws. Now, according to election monitoring organizations, they have noted that these incidents of electoral violation of electoral laws since the announcement of the election until last afternoon is comparatively low compared to the same period during the previous election that Sri Lanka had to elect a president. Now, one of the key components for an election is the ballot paper. Now, government printer Ganga Kalpani Liyanake said that the printing work for the upcoming presidential election will commence tomorrow, that's Friday. Now, this will follow approval given by the Election Commission after the completion of today's nomination process. Now, according to government printer Ganga Kalpani Liyanage, despite the increase in numbers of candidates running for this year's presidential election, there are no significant changes that will be made to the ballot paper compared to the ballot paper that was used for the 2019 presidential election, which also had a high number of candidates running for the highest office in the country. Now, speaking of elections, it is up to the voters to go to the polling station and exercise their franchise. Now, what if on that day, on election day, there is a thunderstorm or there is a flooding situation? So in order to minimize any impact caused by natural disasters, a special program is also in place. Now, Pramita Bandarathinakone is the State Minister of Defence. Now, he said that in line with the guidelines and the instructions of the Election Commission of Sri Lanka, every citizen will have the opportunity to cast their vote even in the event of a natural disaster. Now, the Disaster Management Centre is tasked with ensuring that there are necessary measures in place so that the voters can visit the polling stations and exercise their franchise. Now, State Minister Pramita Bandarathinakone emphasized that officials from the relevant government agencies are prepared to handle any disaster-related emergencies during the election period. Now, to support this, a special district disaster management unit across all districts will be set up under the direct supervision of the Disaster Management Centre. Now, additionally, a 24/7 hotline will also be operational during this period. That's the number is 117. That's how you can reach the Disaster Management Centre in the event of a disaster, especially on election day if you are finding it difficult to head to the polling station. Now, during that meeting, the heads of the military apparatus and the defence apparatus were also present to ensure the smooth operations are taking place with regard to mitigating disasters and also ensuring that the general public can head to the polling stations on election day, even though there is a natural disaster on that day. We cannot predict what will happen, but if a natural disaster occurs, well, the Disaster Management Centre and the military and the police personnel are ready to assist the general public. Now, switching gears from the election scenario to something that's affecting every Sri Lankan, now that's taxes. Now, following Sri Lanka's defaulting on servicing external debt, Sri Lanka entered into an IMF program, and thereafter revisions were made to the income tax slabs. Now, President Ranil Wickremesinghe has revealed plans to provide relief for personal income tax in the near future. Now, according to a statement from the President's Media Division, the President had mentioned two proposals. Now, currently under review by the Treasury, and a counter proposal by the IMF. Now, these are being considered to achieve the goal of providing some benefit to the middle segments like academia. Now, the government is proposing to the IMF an adjustment in personal income tax slabs from 500,000 rupees to 720,000 rupees, aiming to provide relief to the mid-level taxpayers affected by the recent tax reforms. Now, the President's Media Unit also said that the IMF is suggesting changes offering more relief to lower bands and similar relief for a mid-level and slightly less for the higher earners in the country, in keeping with the program parameters. Now, let's have a listen to what the President had to say regarding these tax reforms.
Now, in the next stage of discussing the tax thresholds, because we have had a very strong performance in the economy this year, We hope to maintain it next year. So now we are looking at adjustments to the personal income tax structure to provide some relief to the taxpayers in that way. So we are now working at bringing the tax slab up to, for example, propose an adjustment to the personal income tax slab. At the moment, we are having two proposals. One is a proposal by the officials of the Treasury, other is a proposal by the officials of the IMF. So we are now looking at the comparisons of what it will happen and we are working it out. But both these means that there is going to be a question of relief, which we've been talking with the IMF, and I have no doubt that we can go ahead with one of these things. Anyway, let the officials decide. But the economy is growing. We can grow, but we must grow faster. That's why we have to look at the future.
Well, only time will tell what will happen with regard to the taxes that we pay. Now, at the same time, Sri Lanka's diplomatic service is going to see a small shake-up. Now, the Committee on High Positions, which met recently in the Parliament, has given approval for the appointment of 6 new ambassadors, 1 High Commissioner, 2 Ministry Secretaries, and a Chairman to a statutory board. Now, accordingly, the Committee on High Posts has given approval for SAPP Seram to be appointed as the Sri Lankan ambassador to the Republic of Indonesia. Now, RSK Azwad will be appointed as the ambassador of Sri Lanka to the state of Qatar. SK Gunasekara will be appointed as the Sri Lankan ambassador to the Russian Federation. ASK Seniviratna as the ambassador to the Arab Republic of Egypt. NM Shahid as the ambassador of Sri Lanka to the Islamic Republic of Iran. YK Gunasekara as the Sri Lankan ambassador to the Kingdom of Bahrain. SP Walwitagamage as the High Commissioner of Sri Lanka to New Zealand. Now, these new ambassadors and High Commissioners will be appointed to Indonesia, Qatar, Russia, Egypt, Iran, Bahrain, New Zealand. Now, in addition to that, the Committee on High Posts has recommended the appointment of KP Chandrakirti as the Secretary to the Ministry of Environment and S. Veerasinghe as the Secretary to the Ministry of Industries. At the same time, the Committee on High Posts has also recommended the appointment of Dr. D.T.K. Bernard to be appointed to the post of Chairman and CEO of the Export Development Board of Sri Lanka. Now, moving on, I want to tell you a story about something that we've been following here at Newsfirst. That's about Sri Lankan youth lured to work in cyber slave camps over in Myanmar. Now, how does this start? Well, these cyber criminals post, using various middlemen and other agencies, post adverts for IT jobs in Thailand, with lucrative salaries and other benefits. So innocent Sri Lankans who go to this are being taken to Thailand using tourist visas or visit visas, and they don't suspect anything wrong with this, but they go to Thailand, and then from there they are being smuggled to Myanmar, where they are forced to work in deplorable conditions in cyber slave camps. Now, Newsfirst managed to speak to some of these youth who were held against their will in these cyber slave camps. Now, the stories they tell us are appalling. They say that they are being forced to stand for hours, meet targets of scamming unsuspecting Europeans who assume that what they are doing is right. Now, these scams involve befriending these unsuspecting victims, gaining their trust, and then cleaning out their savings or bank accounts from overseas. Now, earlier, a group of 8 Sri Lankan youth who were held against their will in this cyber slave camp in the Miyawadi region in Myanmar were brought back to Sri Lanka. Now, in some good news, 20 more Sri Lankans who were held against their will in these cyber slave camps were freed last afternoon, and the Sri Lankan embassy in Myanmar confirmed that these Sri Lankans are safe. There's nothing wrong with them, and they have been moved to Thailand as of last evening. Now, Miyawadi city is notorious and is well known for operating various scams, also linked to Chinese criminal syndicates as well. Now, there are another 30 plus Sri Lankans who are still held in another location, another cyber slave camp, also in the Miyawadi city, that is, and this location is some 25 kilometers away from the town center. Now, according to Sri Lankan officials, efforts are underway to rescue these Sri Lankans and bring them back home as well. So we await a positive outcome from the efforts that have been undertaken by the authorities to rescue these Sri Lankans as well. Now, if any Sri Lankan encounters such a similar incident, there is one body that you can reach out to. That's the Bali process. Now, the Capital Maharaja Group is also a partner involved in the Bali process. Now, the Bali process is involved in ensuring that modern day slavery is brought to an end. Now, that's a global effort to end modern day slavery. And then switching gears, well, last afternoon, since last morning, you experienced some heavy rainfall across many regions in the country, including Colombo. So even if you are heading out today, make sure you carry those umbrellas and your children have raincoats on, because it's going to rain today as well. Now, the Met Department says showers or thunder showers will occur at times in the western, Sabaragamuwa, northwestern and in Kandy, as well as the Nuwara, Galle and Matara districts. Now, according to the Met Department, showers or thunder showers are expected at several places in the eastern and Uva provinces and in the Matale, Polonnaruwa and Mullaitivu districts during various times of the day. Now, during thunder showers, one thing is for certain, that's lightning. So the Met Department is urging the public to ensure that all measures are taken to minimize the damage caused by lightning. So how can you be safe from lightning strikes? Well, stay indoors and switch off all those electrical appliances until the rain ceases off, and then you can switch them back on. Well, that brings an end to this morning's edition of the Breakfast Rundown with me, Zulfick Farzan. But stay with Newsfirst, as we will bring you up-to-date information as at when it happens with regard to the nomination process ahead of the 2024 presidential election. And if you're heading across Rajgir, well, avoid those major roads where you might experience some traffic congestions and use alternative routes to reach your destination. Well, you can also follow all the stories that I brought you here right now on our award-winning website, that's www.newsfirst.lk. Visit our Facebook page, YouTube channel, our X account and Instagram, as well as TikTok for more on the very latest. Until tomorrow, take care and stay safe.